What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Bodacious Rant. I hope everybody's living life, because this movie is exactly against that. And if you haven't guessed already, we're talking about the latest addition to a, I would say, mixed franchise. To be honest, I'm not really sure. I just feel like realizing it lately, I don't know how necessarily popular it is amongst people, but we are talking about Final Destination Bloodlines. And this is a non-spoiler review, so if you did watch the movie, or if you like just hearing us talk, looking at our faces, which thank you, but feel free to give us a like on down there, as well as ring the bell for notifications, and subscribe so you can keep listening in and watching us and being part of our Bodacious family. I know I say ranting community, but we're really a family. We gotta bond together. We'll create our own bloodlines,
I was gonna say our own Final Destination bloodline, where we get systematically taken out, starting with me and you.
Oh my God! I'm not part of that.
It's too late. The bond has been made.
The fuck does that mean? I'm not gonna die right now. Well, actually, you know what? I don't want to jinx it, and that's where the paranoia comes in. Anyways, so the reason why I've been thinking how popular is Final Destination really? Given there have been 5 movies beforehand, so I want to say 10-ish years ago, it actually was. No, more like 15, 20 years ago. It was decently popular just because, it's not like a serial killer or slasher, or in a way it's a supernatural thing, but it's more kind of letting fate happen. So, and the butterfly effect. So that's another thing. But this one is essentially, I don't know if they will keep making more after just the way this one played off, but essentially the main character is a college student who has a recurring nightmare about this one woman's death of 50 years ago, back in the 70s, 60s era. And it all happened at this place called Skyview Restaurant, where it's almost like the Space Needle, but, a restaurant super high up. And going back home to figure out why she's having these dreams, it's essentially she's realized it's all connected to the previous movies in a way. Hence the name Bloodlines and all that stuff. So going into this has the strongest ratings out of all of them, but from the critics. So I was like, okay, maybe this will be really good, because my personal favorites are the second and third one, and then the 5th one in 2011, which was the last one we had, and that actually I think was meant to finish it off, because that was the prequel to the very first one. So it's interesting they went with this. I will say I think this is the funniest one. A lot of the jokes made me laugh and made the audience laugh when I was in the theater. And story-wise, I think this was the most sound out of all of them. But I don't know what it was. I just did not really feel that. I did not feel paranoid about any of these situations. Like the second and third one for me, those have stayed with me. I will never go into a suntanning bed. Like most people, I will never want to drive behind a semi with loose logs or stuff that could fly off in general. And also I feel like the second one, there was a couple other iconic deaths in those few that really stuck with me. And also the 5th one, never gonna do gymnastics. But this one, I just wasn't feeling it this time. I think the effects played a big factor in it, and I haven't really watched the other one, so this may sound weird, but I feel like the deaths in this one were almost way more elaborate, not so simple, where I'm okay, these could potentially happen in real life. So that's just how I felt about it. Bern, what did you think about this one, and what were your initial thoughts maybe going into it?
Yeah, I mean, the way that you put it's sort of the way that I sort of came into it too, where for me it was the first 2 movies, the first one and the second one felt pretty iconic, especially back in the day. It was kind of one of those times where it's oh, that was the viral horror movies for our generation, when we were kids. Whereas before it could have been something Nightmare on Elm Street, or Jason, things like that. It seems like Final Destination was that for us, where it just kind of took over the cultural zeitgeist, and everyone was oh man, I wonder I think it even spawned I don't know if it was the direct inspiration, but the whole 1,000 Ways to Die show, if anybody remembers that.
I honestly think that I mean, I don't know if it was openly known about it, but 100% it had taken something like that.
It's just all these elaborate, ridiculous ways that we can perish essentially. And that's kind of like what you mentioned about like this series. It's kind of sets itself apart in that way, where it's not some sort of being that's like trying to kill you or anything like that. It's just the idea of fate and like death itself, like just sort of you're trying to avoid that, they're not avoiding a person. So that always lends itself to be sort of interesting. And I think in this movie, sort of like trying to like tie it into not so much of the other movies, but like in sort of like a generational way seems like a pretty fun approach. And like you mentioned, I think in terms of like the overall story and the characters and sort of the setup, I think yeah, it's kind of fair to say that this is the strongest of those of the series. And in the comedic aspect, it does sort of lean into that more dark comedy approach where the situations can be a little ridiculous and you can have fun with that, and it's not like it doesn't cross that line into sort of the gore porn area where you're just kind of reveling in just like the disgustingness of people dying. It's a little bit played more lighter and a little bit more fun, and you're having a good time with it, like a good summer horror movie would do. And I think in those aspects, this movie does sort of succeed in that sense. But yeah, I do have the similar criticisms that you have, where it feels like this movie was sort of lacking that, I guess, iconic scene for me, where it felt like yeah, the deaths were cool and they were fun in like while watching them, but I don't think I'm going to be remembering any of these like for years to come, like the plane scene in the first one, or like you mentioned the highway scene in the second one. It just feels like it's sort of lacking that sort of edge that the other movies did. And I do think that also the whole CGI aspect of it, that you mentioned, does definitely sort of detract from what could have been probably the biggest sequence in this movie. And that was a little bit unfortunate. I know these movies are a little bit lower budget, but I feel like they could have done a little bit of a better job trying to work around that and leaning more into the practicality of it, and sort of executing it on that approach. I mean, again, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but it feels like that would have helped a little bit in that sense, where maybe limiting the sort of scope of a certain aspect could have led to a little bit more creative ways to approach it. But I mean, we won't know for sure. But yeah, I'm along the same way that you are, where it was cool, it was fun. I could see why people could consider it the best put together movie in the franchise. But in terms of like what this franchise is known for, which is the ridiculous kills, this sort of doesn't cross that line for me.
No, I will say I really did like, without spoiling it, I did like the intro of it. I thought that really set the stage. Like that was kind of along the lines of the recent movies, like the part of the franchise where, again, paranoid about going into a high up place like that. So I will, that was kind of good. But even then, like you said, it didn't make me as paranoid or but worried about that kind of stuff. Given these are movies, so it sounds ridiculous, but at the same time, I'm not the only one who's joked about it. Like there are plenty of people that say, "Oh, like, these definitely create that scene of like I'm never doing that or I'm never doing this." And it's like, okay, yeah, that's fair. Again, it's just a movie, so it is what it is. But yeah, it was mostly just the effects, and I think the deaths were they just didn't hit hard. Maybe it's because I've seen so many movies that really made light of death. Maybe I'm kind of over it, like the monkey and what was the other one we saw that was like that kind of made fun of it too. It'll hit me later, but yeah, like I said, this was just okay. With all that being said, I think the cast was solid for the most part. There were a couple cheesy lines, especially from a couple of the main characters. Like, yeah, I could definitely tell this is not. It just didn't flow well on screen. Like maybe it was good on paper, and they said stick with it, but it was like, okay, this is definitely sounds too much like you're reading the lines. But other than that, it's a fun movie. It's definitely a good like if you kind of just want to watch something for fun for the summer with a little bit of horror and stuff like that, this is right up your alley. But I'm curious to see how hardcore fans or maybe fans of the franchise will think on this one. For me, it's a 3 out of 5. I would say definitely not worth. It's definitely worth going to theaters at least once. Maybe on a $5 Tuesday, or AMC. I think they started doing something where it's like half off on Wednesdays. I don't know when that starts, but I know that's supposed to be like the summer thing. Like like half off on tickets on Wednesdays and stuff. So food for thought. But yeah, it's a good movie. Just not compared to the other ones that I really grew up with and stuff. It's not for me. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think the 3 out of 5 from me is also I'm also there with you. I think comparing it to the other movies in the franchise, I would say even like the better ones probably reach that same point, 3 out of 5. I don't think any of them are like amazing.
No.
It's like they're not like great fantastic movies, but they're fun for what they are. And I think this movie is along those lines where it's fun for what it is. You go in for some cool, fun, interesting kills, and again, the characters and the plot is a little bit more intriguing this time around. It's just it's let down by the little bit of the CGI aspect of it and a little bit of the unmemorable kills. Not to say that they're bad or anything. It's just again, considering where we've gone with this franchise, I feel like they could have done a little bit more. But you're still gonna have a fun time with it in the theater, and I think in terms of like summer horror fun movies, I think it definitely checks that box. So yeah, it's a 3 out of 5 for me. It's a fun watch, just not one that I'm gonna be thinking about like the other movies. But hey, they all can be that way, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna have your amazing ones and your duds. This one's just kind of more along the lines of, it's a bit of a dud for me. Would I go see it again? Probably, but doesn't mean I'm excited or I'm gonna like, oh my god, I have to go see it again. So, yeah, so 3 out of 5 from both me and Byrne. I would definitely say, I could, if you want me to, I can speak for you, Byrne. It's definitely on the lower 3 end. Because yeah, he makes a good point. Not all those movies are that iconic where like, oh my god, I want to keep watching those again and again, or they're so great. It's just like, they're fun movies, with some interesting kills and characters and stuff like that. So yeah, for those of you who did happen to watch it this weekend, feel free to let us know what you thought of it. Until next time, like I said, we're going into the summer season, so we're going to get a lot more movies coming up, especially the Lilo and Stitch live action coming out, Superman in a couple months, and Mission Impossible also coming out soon. So until next time, everyone, stay bodacious and keep on ranting for us.
Absolutely, everybody. Be good, be safe, and as always, we'll catch y'all on the next one.